With Legend ZA taking place in Kalos, I figured it was about time to revisit it since it's been about 3 years. However, I'm not just going to visit Kalos, I'm going to burn it to the ground with my fire type Pokemon. So, can I be a Pokemon Y hardcore Nuzlocke with only fire types? Let's find out. I changed my clothes and meet the neighborhood kids. Oh my. Anyways, we all gather and they want to give me a nickname. How about No? Tyrano then pulls out the starters and obviously I pick Fennekin and name him Gandalf. Shauna then wants to have a battle and I beat her easily. I then return to my home. Mother, I am leaving. Oh, and here's a letter. Love letter? I don't think so. She then gives me a town map. I then catch a Fletchender and name her Starfire. I caught a Panseer and named him Luffy. On Route 22, I found a Litleo and caught her, naming her Nala. Before I could enter the gym, I needed to beat up this roller skater. She then gives me a pair of roller skates. After some training, it was time to fight Viola. She starts with Surskit and I start with Starfire. 2 Pecks defeats Surskit. Vivillon comes out and I switch to Gandalf. After several embers, Vivillon is defeated, winning me the badge. As I'm about to leave, I receive an XP share from Viola's sister. I then meet Professor Sycamore. We have a battle. He starts with Bulbasaur and I start with Starfire. 2 Pecks defeat it. Squirtle comes out and after a few pecks and a quick attack, it goes down. Charmander is his last Pokemon. I switch to Nala. I used Work Up to raise her attack. 2 headbutts take Charmander down. I then picked up Charmander. I then meet Lysandre and Diantha. Tyrano wants to have a battle. I lead with Nala and he leads with Corphish. Corphish primarily uses Vice Grip. I used Leer to lower its defense and 2 headbutts defeat Corphish. A Snorlax blocks Route 7, so we have to go grab the Pokeflute from a rich guy. On the way, Gandalf evolves into Braixen. We get to the rich man's place and his Furfrou has gone missing. Shauna and I managed to find and catch Furfrou. After some training and forgetting to go back to the balcony, Drago and Starfire evolve. I then watch the fireworks show with Shauna. Afterwards, we receive the Pokeflute. We return to the sleeping Snorlax and beat it. Serena and I then battled Trevor and Tyrano and beat them. Serena and I tried to talk to a fossil guy, but he's in a cave, so we head on over there. While in the cave, I discovered Team Flare members and kicked their butts. The fossil guy then gave us each a fossil. On Route 10, I caught an Eevee. Next, I took on Gym Leader Grant. He starts with Imaura, and I start with Luffy. I use Yawn to put it to sleep eventually. I used Protect to help stall. Once it fell to sleep, I swapped to Drago, and with 2 Dragon Rage, Amurav faints. Tyrant comes out. Dragon Rage brings it to half. Luckily, Drago survives a rock tomb. I sacrifice Luffy to remove the decreased speed stat. Luffy then faints, allowing Drago to finish Tyrant off with Dragon Rage. While battling a Team Flare member, Nala unfortunately faints. Bruh. I make my way to the Tower of Mastery. We meet Karina and her grandpa and talk about Mega Evolutions for a bit. He then wants to give us a Mega Ring, but only has one. Serena and I then battled for it. She starts with Meowstic and I start with Gandalf. She goes for a fake out. Bruh. I land a Fire Spin, doing little damage, but at least it'll do damage over time. I use 2 Flame Charges to raise Gandalf's speed. Before Meowstic dies, I set up Light Screen, which weakens special attacks. Frogadier comes out. He goes for a quick attack and I go for Fire Spin to deal damage over time. I switch into Drago and he heals up thanks to a Citrus Berry. 2 Dragon Rage defeat Frogadier. Absol is her final Pokemon. I swap to Starfire. Absol then gets burned. After several turns, Absol faints to burn. I then take on Karina. She starts with Mean Few and I start with Starfire. Mean Few uses Fake Out. It then gets burned thanks to Flame Body. Peck brings it down to low yellow. She then heals. Eventually Starfire defeats it with a Peck. Peck takes a quarter of Machoke's health. Unfortunately, Rock Tomb kills Starfire. Psybeam from Gandalf kills Machoke. 2 Psybeams then defeat Hawlucha. Karina then wants to have a mega battle with me. Mega Lucario one-shots her Lucario with a critical power-up punch. She then gives me Lucario. Well, buddy, I hope you enjoy being in a PC because that's where you're going.
Help! me.
I make my way to the 4th gym and Serena wants another battle. Ugh, leave me alone. This time she beats me because of Absol outspeeding and hitting hard. Well, attempt to. I beat Karina again and this time Starfire lives. I refought Serena and this time won thanks to having Starfire and Flame Body. Next I take on Gym Leader Ramos. He starts with Jump Bluff and I start with Drago. Drago is able to live 2 acrobatics and defeat Jump Bluff with 2 flame bursts. Go Goat comes out and I swap to Starfire, who was immune to Bulldoze. Go Goat eventually gets burned by Flame Body. This weakens its attack by half. After many turns, Go Goat finally goes down. Weeping Bell is his last Pokemon. I swap to Gandalf and with 1 Side Shock, Weeping Bell is defeated. After the victory, Starfire evolves into Talonflame. I make my way to the power plant to find Team Flare causing problems. Of course, I beat up the first Grunt and Gandalf evolves. After beating up another Grunt, Drago evolves as well. Eventually, I get to the boss of this small little group and Mega Drago kills her Mightyena with 1 Flame Burst. Well, I've created a monster. I then make my way to Luminos City where I evolve Eevee with a Firestone. Clemont is my next opponent. He starts with Emolga and I start with Gandalf. A Side Shock and a Mystical Fire take care of it. Magneton survives a Mystical Fire thanks to Sturdy and sets up an electric terrain. He goes for a Hyper Potion, so I go for Flame Charge to do some chipping and to gain some speed to hopefully outspeed his Heliolisk. Mystical Fire then finishes it off. Side Shock brings Heliolisk to the red and Thunderbolt brings Gandalf to the red. Sheesh. He then heals, so with 2 more Side Shocks, defeats his Heliolisk. I meet Professor Sycamore in Lysandre's cafe and we discuss about Mega Evolutions. I make my way to Route 14 and Serena wants to have a battle in which I effortlessly beat her thanks to Mega Charizard. After some training, I took on Gym Leader Valerie. She starts with Mawile and I start with Red. Lava Plume obliterates Mawile. Mr. Mime is next and is a bit annoying. 2 Lava Plumes brings it to the yellow and burns it. She uses a Hyper Potion on it. A 3rd Lava Plume brings it back to the yellow. Red was pretty low on health, so I swapped to Drago and she heals again. Ugh. I Mega Evolve Drago. Flame Burst brings Mr. Mime to the red and Burn finishes off. Good riddance. Sylveon is her last Pokemon and with 2 Flame Bursts is defeated. Next, Serena and I defeat 2 of Team Flare's leaders in the Pokeball factory. The owner then thanks us and gives us a Master Ball and a big nugget. I find a Litwick and catch it. In an ice cave, Team Flare is harassing an Abomasnow and I beat them up for it. I make it to the next city and Serena wants to have another battle and I beat her once more. Bruh, go get more Pokemon. Also, Light, the Litwick, had evolved, but it accidentally happened off screen. Olympia is my next opponent, Sigalith, and I start with Gandalf. Flamethrower brings it down to half and she goes for light screens. Ugh. I then burn it with Will-O-Wisp. I set up my own light screen. Also, I didn't realize until I was editing that it had Magic Guard, which makes burn not hurt it. What the heck? After several flamethrowers and Olympia healing it, Sigalith finally dies. Slowking is next. I used Will-O-Wisp and burned it. Slowking decided to go for Yawn. Bruh, why are you like this? I swapped to Red, who's able to take Power Gem thanks to light screens. Bite brings Slowking to the red and it goes for Yawn. Burn brings it down to like 1 HP. Bite finishes Slowking off. Meowstic is her final Pokemon. I kept Red in to waste her Fake Out. Red takes a Psychic and Bite brings Meowstic to the yellow. I switch to Starfire, who finishes this battle with Acrobatics, winning me my 7th gym badge. In the Lost Hotel, I found a Rotom in the trash can, making it a static encounter and caught it. I head to Sycamore's lab to transform Rotom into its fire form with the nickname Oven. I make my way to one of Team Flare's hideouts. Lysandre challenges me and starts with Meanfew, and I start with Drago. I Mega Evolve Drago and Wing Attack one-shot Meanfew. Gyarados comes out and I switch to Oven, who is able to survive an Aqua Tail thanks to Drought. Thunderbolt then sends Gyarados to its grave. Murkrow is Oven's next victim. Pyroar comes out, I predict the Hyper Voice and switch to Light. I then switch switch to Starfire to tank Dark Holes, and with 2 acrobatics, Pyroar is defeated. I defeat some of his sidekicks and get the elevator key. I go down the elevator and Lysandre is talking with his prisoner, who goes on a boring historical story. Lysandre pretty much dismisses his story and mentions that he had the key to the ultimate weapon. I take on Zerosic. I'm assuming that's how his name is pronounced. He starts with Crobat and I start with Starfire. 2 acrobatics take out Crobat. Malamar goes down to 2 acrobatics as well. The ultimate weapon then gets activated. With the fear of the ultimate weapon destroying the world, there was only one hero who could end this madness. I rush to Lysandre's second base. Lysandre goes on a monologue about human nature and justice and blah blah blah. Look man, just because humans fight over things, that doesn't give you the right to play God. We battle once again. He starts with Minchao and I start with Drago. I Mega Evolve Drago and Wing Attack one-shots it. Gyarados comes out and I switch to Oven. Oven survives an Aqua Tail and nukes it with Thunderbolt. Pyroar comes out, I switch to Light, predicting the Hyper Roar. Predicting Dark Pulse, I switch to Red. Red takes about a quarter of its health before I need to switch out. Starfire comes out and beats Pyroar with 2 acrobatics. Honchkrow is his last Pokemon. I switch to Drago, who defeats it with Flamethrower. He questions what we are protecting. Bruh, what do you think we're trying to protect, you madman? He admits that I'm strong, but claims we're too late. We'll see about that, boomer. After beating up the grunts, Yveltal wakens and challenges us. I went ahead and used the Master Ball to make my life a bit easier. Lysandre returns and challenges us once more. Ugh, man, you're a persistent villain. You must enjoy getting a beating.
Stop it. Get some help.
We battle once more. He leads with Minchao and I lead with Starfire. Acrobatics defeats Minchao. Pyroar comes out. I set up Tailwind and Starfire survives Hyper Voice. I switch to Light and then switch to Red. With 2 digs, Pyroar goes down. Honchkrow comes out and I switch to Drago. I Mega Evolve him and Flamethrower causes Honchkrow to faint. Gyarados' his final Pokemon comes out and Mega Evolves. I go for Flamethrower and it burns him. Hallelujah. Causing his attack to be halved, and with Drought, Aqua Tail is no longer a threat. I switch to Oven, surviving an Aqua Tail, and Burn brings it to the yellow. Thunderbolt then ends Gyarados, and Lysandre throws his shades to the ground. What are you, a child? How pathetic. He then fires the weapon just for it to land on itself and self-destruct. We all meet in front of the hole. Tierno calls these stupid masked heroes out on who they are, and they try to convince us that they're not who he calls them. Bruh, y'all ain't convincing anyone with those goofy odd masks. In the Terminus Cave, I picked up a Dusk Stone and use it to evolve Light into Chandelure. On Route 18, I found a Heatmore and caught it. As I make my way to get to the 8th gym, Professor Sycamore challenged me to a battle. He starts with Venusaur and I start with Drago. I Mega Evolve Drago and use Flamethrower, turning Venusaur into ashes. Blastoise comes out and I switch to Oven. Thunderbolt makes Blastoise become crispy. Anyone want a fried turtle?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Charizard also is taken out by Thunderbolt. I continue my journey and Shauna wants to have a battle. She starts with Delcatty and I start with Gandalf. Flamethrower brings Delcatty to the red and she goes for Charm. Well, that's a waste. A second Flamethrower finishes it off. Gudra is up next. I set up light screens and she goes for Earthquake. Thankfully, Gandalf was able to survive. I switch to Drago. I Mega Evolve him and go for Flamethrower, doing about a quarter of its health. A second Flamethrower brings it to the red thanks to it being a critical, and Wing Attack finishes it off. Flamethrower finishes off her last Pokemon, Chestnut. Tierno comes out of nowhere and wants to battle as well. He starts to Talonflame and I start with Gandalf. I switch to Oven. Acrobatics does nothing to Oven and Thunderbolt defeats Talonflame. Crawdon also goes down to Thunderbolt. Roserade is his last Pokemon and is defeated by Overheat. Trevor follows up. He starts with Raichu and I start with Gandalf. I set a Light Scream and he goes for Nuzzle and paralyzes Gandalf. Psychic brings it to the red and Flamethrower finishes off. Aerodactyl is next. I switch to Oven and Thunderbolt sends it back to its prehistoric times. Florges is his last Pokemon and oh my gosh, this thing sucks. Turns out this thing has an extremely high special defense, 154. What the... Overheat takes out a quarter of its health. Florges also has the move Confide, lowering my Pokemon special attack. Ugh. I decide to switch to Drago, and Moonblast lowers his special attack. Bruh. I Mega Evolve Drago anyways. Flamethrower brings it to low yellow thanks to Drought boosting the fire type moves. Thankfully, he goes for Misty Terrain, allowing one last Flamethrower to defeat it. On Route 21, I picked up the TM Solar Beam. Next, I take on Gym Leader Wolfric, who honestly was a complete joke. Abominable Snow is his first Pokemon and gets torched to the ground since Ice and Grass are 4 times weak to fire, along with this being a Mega Charizard with Drought up. So yeah, there was no way for Abominable Snow to survive. Cryogonal is beaten by one Flamethrower as well. Avalog also melts away. Yeah, some 8th gym leader you are. Serena decides to catch me on Victory Road and challenges me, and it's quite more difficult. She starts with Meowstic and I start with Light. Starting with Light prevents her Meowstic using Fake Out, but she goes for Shadow Ball. Luckily, Light is able to tank it. Light's Shadow Ball though finishes Meowstic off. Greninja comes out. I switch to Drago, predicting the Dark Pulse. I Mega Evolve Drago to get Drought out, weakening her water type moves and allowing Solar Beam to attack in one turn, killing Greninja. Altaria is up next. I tried using Inferno but end up missing, and Dragon Pulse brings Drago to the red. I switch to Gandalf and set up light screens to weaken Altaria's special attacks. She goes for Confide. Ugh, not this stupid move again. I land Will-O-Wisp to do some chipping damage. I switch to Oven and 2 Thunderbolts take it down. Absol comes out and is defeated by a critical Thunderbolt. Flareon is her last Pokemon. 2 Thunderbolts bring it to the yellow. I then switch to Starfire and defeat it with Acrobatics. It was then time to take on the Elite Four. I challenge Wickstrom first since he would be the easiest. He starts with Klefki and I start with Gandalf. He sets up spikes and Flamethrower kills it. Probopass comes out next. Flamethrower takes a quarter of its health down and it goes for Power Gem, doing about a third of Gandalf's health. Sheesh. I set up light screens, weakening a second Power Gem. I land Will-O-Wisp and Gandalf survives a third Power Gem. I switch to Red, who finishes Probopass off with Flare Blitz. Aegislash comes out. I switch to Drago and Mega Evolve him. Flamethrower melts it away. Scizor is his last Pokemon and also faints to Flamethrower. Drasna is next. She starts with Dragog and I start with Gandalf. Psychic brings it to like 2 HP and Surf brings about a quarter of Gandalf's health down. She goes for a full restore and Psychic brings it back to the red. This time its special defense goes down. She uses her last full restore and it faints to a third Psychic. Good job, stupid. Altaria is next, and honestly I'm so done seeing this stupid freaking bird that's somehow a dragon. Flamethrower barely does damage to it and Dragon Pulse puts Gandalf into the yellow. I set up light screens allowing Gandalf to survive a critical Dragon Pulse. I switch to Oven, who tanks a Dragon Pulse. 2 Thunderbolts defeats it. Noivern comes out and 2 Thunderbolts also defeat it. Druddigon is her final Pokemon. I switch to Light, which ends up being a safe switch in because she went for revenge. Shadow Ball does about a third of Druddigon's health. She goes for Dragon Tail and brings Drago out. I Mega Evolve and go for Solar Beam, which did a lot less damage than I thought it would do. She goes for Dragon Tail again and drags Red out. This time Red finishes the job with Flare Blitz. Seabold is next. He starts with Clawitzer and I start with Drago. My strategy here is pretty simple. I Mega Evolve Drago to get Drought up and Solar Beam one-shots his Clawitzer. He brings Barbarical out and it also faints to 1 Solar Beam. Starmie is next. I switch to Oven and he sets up Light Screen. That's cute. 2 Thunderbolts cause Starmie to faint. Gyarados comes out and is his last Pokemon. Thunderbolt brings it to the red and he goes for Dragon Dance. He then uses a full restore and Thunderbolt kills it thanks to it being a critical. Malva is the final Elite Four member. She starts with Pyroar and I start with Gandalf. I set up light screens to weaken her special attacks. I then use Psychic, bringing Pyroar to the yellow and lowering her special defense. A second Psychic finishes Pyroar off. Orko comes out. 1 Psychic brings it to about half health and it lands Stone Edge, bringing Gandalf to the red. Yikes. Gandalf's second Psychic is able to finish Torkoal off. Chandelure is next. I switch to red and Shadow Ball takes about a third of his health down. Ouch. He survives the second Shadow Ball and Bite takes it down to half. I switch to Oven, who tanks the Shadow Ball. Thunderbolt Thunderbolt then defeats it. Talonflame is her last Pokemon and goes down to Thunderbolt. With the Elite Four defeated, it was finally Diantha's turn. Everything has led to this moment, this final fight. Will my Fire-type team be able to burn her team to ashes? She starts with Hawlucha, and I start with Starfire. Brightbird is able to one-shot Hawlucha. Tyrantrum comes out, I set up Tailwind, and Tyrantrum kills Starfire with Head Smash. I bring Drago out, I Mega Evolved, and used Solar Beam, which one-shot Tyrantrum. Aurorus comes out and was a bigger nuance than I thought it would be. Flamethrower brings it to the red, and it sets up a light screen. Bruh. She heals, and a second Flamethrower then does about a quarter of its health. I tried to go for Inferno, and yeah, that ended up missing, and she lands Thunder. Bruh. It brings Drago to low green and paralyzes him. A second Thunder hits and almost killed Drago. He lands a Flamethrower, bringing Aurora's to low yellow. I switch to red, and she goes for another full restore. Ugh. I go for Dig, and she sets up a Reflect. Come on. You just can't fight fair, can you, Diantha? Dig does a quarter of its health, and Thunder doesn't do much. Flare Blitz brings it back to low yellow. Thunder brings red to the yellow and paralyzes him. Red avoids Thunder and is unable to move. Thunder finishes Red off. Light finishes Aurora's off with Shadow Ball. Gorgus is Light's next victim, fainting to Shadow Ball as well. Gudra is the next nuance since it's especially bulky. Shadow Ball barely does anything to it, and Muddy Water brings Light to the red. Ugh. A second Shadow Ball brings it to the yellow, and Muddy Water finishes Light off. Oven comes out. Thunderbolt does little damage, and Muddy Water brings Oven to low green. I miss an Overheat, and Muddy Water finishes Oven off. Gandalf finishes it off with Psychic. She brings her ace Pokemon Gardevoir out. She Mega Evolves. I set a light screen, making her Shadow Ball weak. I landed Will-O-Wisp, burning her. With 2 Flamethrowers, Gardevoir is defeated, making me the new champion of the Kalos region. This was a really fun challenge. Hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Speaking of, go check out my Mono Steel challenge in Pokemon Sword.